Hi everyone, I'm Teresa.
And I'm Celeste.
And welcome to our very first official episode of Disney Channel
Chat.
Today we are going to be talking about Jonas, obviously because we're huge Jonas
I mean,
fans.
just look at the shirt. Okay.
Yeah, I don't have any fancy merch, but that's okay. But we have a very, very special guest with us today. Please welcome Mr. Michael Curtis.
Hi.
Hello, how are you doing?
Doing well, and yourself?
I like the merch because I probably got some money for that.
Oh, yeah. Well,
I know, I'm such a slacker. So would you like to introduce yourself to all of our viewers and listeners?
My name's Michael Curtis, and I was a television writer and producer for about 25 years. And before that, I worked in production on a lot of low-budget movies, just working behind the scenes. And luckily, I was able to work my way into writing and got to do that for a long time. I was very lucky to be there and lucky to be able to do that. I started off on a really great show called Great Scott that starred Tobey Maguire, and Kevin Connolly was his best friend, and just worked on a lot of shows that didn't really do anything and just kind of were canceled and every now and then finally hit the jackpot and was very, very lucky to be able to join the writing staff on Friends at the beginning of season 2. And I was there for 4 years. And after that, I went off to sort of create my own shows, and some worked and some didn't work. And I had a meeting with over at Disney Channel. They wanted someone to come in and take over season 2 of Phil of the Future. And they thought it needed 2 people to take over. And so they hooked me up with a let's see how everyone likes each other meeting with Roger Schulman. And he had just written, he had done Shrek, and he'd worked on a couple of other shows. And we hit it off and had a great time. We loved doing Phil of the Future. And after that, we spent a few years sort of working at Disney Channel, creating shows and developing pilots. One of them was called Haversham Hall, which starred Allie and AJ. And that ended up not going anywhere. And eventually they said, we have this boy band that we want to do a show with, and we're wondering if you could take a look at it for us. And so we did, and the rest is medium-sized history.
That's awesome.
It's what's funny is we had written another pilot for the Disney Channel. There's a place out here in Burbank. I forgot what they changed the name of it, so I forgot what it's called now, but it's a huge apartment complex, which is kind of like a Airbnb before there was Airbnb.
Okay.
All these apartments, it's usually filled, the joke is it's filled with divorced dads and kids who are here for audition season. And so we pitched an idea to Disney Channel about a kid who comes to live there with his family. They're called the Oakwood Apartments. In our show, they were called the Breakers, and the show was called Lucky Breaks. And just sort of a Disney Channel show about all the crazy actor kids, kind of a little bit. I think Bizaardvark sort of has the same vibe to it now.
Yeah.
So we wrote that, and then Disney Channel said, we have this boy band. Could you see if this script can be squeezed into this script? And we said, no, that's not going to work because it's really written for one kid and his family. And they said, please, please, please. And we said, you know what? If you pay us to write another script, we will. So we did. We rewrote that script starring the Jonas Brothers. It did not work. And we went back in and we came up with a whole other idea to do a different pilot for them. And that's the spy pilot that everyone talks about. I think they do. That's everyone asks me about it. So we did a big single camera spy show where the Jonas Brothers played undercover. Their cover was they're a band. They travel around the world, sneaking into places where no one would suspect kids. And it was great. It turned out to be a really great pilot. It didn't quite land the way everybody wanted it to. So we sort of developed another show with the Jonas Brothers, and that one worked. That's what the show ended up being.
Nice.
It's funny because when we first met with Disney Channel, we said, no, instead of cramming them into this other pilot we wrote, why don't we come up with a whole new concept? Just do something like the monkeys. And they went, the monkeys? No, ugh, no, something else. So we came up with a spy one. Then a year later, we went back and they said, we're thinking more like something like the monkeys. And we just said, great idea.
That's awesome.
And so that's what it became when it became.
All right, so we have some questions here. I think we'll just get right into it. And you honestly might have just answered some. So
probably.
We'll,
we can delve
remix it
deeper.
around if we have to.
We can delve deeper into the magic.
All right, so the first question is, it's two questions. It's how long did you work for Disney Channel, and is that what you always wanted to do?
I worked for them from about 2006 doing Phil of the Future, and 2009 was Jonas Brothers, and probably a couple of years after that. So probably five or 6 years.
Okay. Was that your goal? Like when you got into producing and writing and everything, did you want to go to Disney?
No, not at all. Disney Channel was not something I was looking at, but having come from Friends and Roger having come from Shrek, they were like, do whatever you want. And we were like, that sounds great. And Roger and I both sort of had a sort of Warner Brothers, Bugs Bunny mentality to comedy and things like that. So it was fun to be able to do that kind of humor. Kind of felt more real in a kid's world. Yeah. So that's what we enjoyed doing it.
Nice. All right. So the second question.
Yeah, so about the original Jonas pilot script.
Right.
The one that a lot of people wonder.
One.
Yes, the spy.
So not technically the original now, but what we call the original concept.
The original. A lot of people don't really know about the spy concept. I mean, I don't really know much about it. So we wanted to ask what that original concept entailed. Was Jonas always going to be the title? Was it always intended for Jonas Brothers?
Was there music in the spy script?
There is the original story. The concept was they were working for a secret government agency called, wait for it, Junior Operatives Networking as Spies. So it had periods in the title. So if you ever see that title, that's the spy title. Their tour bus was actually a secret. It was a crappy old school bus, but in the back was a super high-tech lab and control center that was run by their dad, who was also their manager, but he was also their dad. Same guy, John Ducey. There was no mom in it yet, and Frankie was not in it, although he was in one scene where they really wanted Frankie to be in the show. So he quickly came up with a scene that sort of fit him in it. It wasn't really the best way to do it, but we would have worked out a way to get him in more later. And they traveled around the world doing concerts. In the story of the pilot was there's a doctor, evil doctor, who is masquerading as a dentist.
Dr. Harvey Fleischman?
Yes, Dr. Harvey.
Yeah.
He was evil Dr. Harvey Fleischman. And there was something called mental floss. And so they were assigned to go and steal it, and they ended up getting caught by Dr. Fleischman and put in his evil lair and stuff like that. And there was a whole like a Mission Impossible type opening at the beginning where they were stealing something from another. So it's sort of the end of their previous mission, and Kevin is sort of the guy hanging from the wires, and it was just really great. Lots of great special effects, and it was great. I really enjoyed it. It was very hard to make, and it was very expensive, but it was fun. It turned out great too. It just wasn't the right vibe. We didn't know the Jonas Brothers that well, so we had Kevin as the oldest was sort of the leader, and Nick as the youngest was the little brother who's always getting teased. And in real life, that is not the dynamic of Jonas Brothers. A year later, when we did the other show, we had a better take on them, and worked much better.
Yeah, for sure.
And who? Stella Malone was in it. She was. She played a cub reporter for a music magazine. There's a scene at a nightclub where they see her in a nightclub and she's wearing this beautiful red dress. Disney Channel said she's got to just pop. So she had this fabulous red dress, and it's the same red dress she wore, 18 months later at the end of the Double Date episode.
Yeah, the Double Date episode. Yeah. That's so funny. And it's funny that it's a red dress because that's like an iconic, like in Burning Up, Nick says red dress, and it's like a thing.
Yeah, all that stuff.
Yeah.
For sure.
It's really funny because we were talking about post-production earlier, but there was in the big scene in the nightclub, the edict was she's got to pop. She has to pop in her red dress. And when we were watching it later, the edit later, there's another woman wearing an equally red dress, just like 5 feet away from her. And they were like, what are you doing? And in post-production, the guy behind the computer went beep, beep, boop, boop, and her dress turned brown. I don't
know.
Crazy.
I don't know how they do it.
Yeah, no, that's...
And they work their magic.
Literal magic.
Okay, so did Disney Channel come to you and Roger asking for a concept, or did you pitch the idea to them?
We pitched it to them. The first time they came to us was they said, can you squeeze this boy band into your apartment series? And we said no, but if you pay us to write another script, we'll do our best. And it didn't work. And so then we went back to them and with the idea, say, how about the monkeys? No. Well, then here's this other idea, spies. And they went, oh, that's interesting. I think they were thinking like of Kim Possible and things like that.
Yeah, Disney Channel likes the spy.
That's what we thought too.
I like the spy theme concept.
I mean, we're a bit biased.
We're definitely biased.
We're in the we've been working on a spy themed Disney Channel show since we were in 5th grade. So
probably close to 15 years at this point.
That's
yeah,
great.
probably. So we're a bit biased when it comes to spy stuff.
Yeah, we had that was sort of our thinking too, that Disney Channel really would go for that, and they did.
Which is surprising.
Until they didn't.
Until they didn't, yeah.
When it comes to casting of the show, I know you're saying Stella was in the original concept. We had heard that they wanted Demi Lovato to be in the concept originally, or in the show.
Yes, that's a really cool story too. So we're interviewing all these actresses. Chelsea was in the mix. It started off like the top of the list first was Lily Collins, and her managers wanted too much money, but she did a really great job. And Demi Lovato, basically we couldn't find anybody. They were trying to make the cast more diverse, and Chelsea was not the most diverse of the actresses, but she was the best. And so we looked at all these tapes, and we saw all these audition tapes, and we saw some auditions, and we were all done. And Gary Marsh, who was head of Disney Channel at the time, said, "Okay, well, keep looking," and walked off. And then the casting lady said, "There's this girl who just sent in a tape. She's from Houston. We'd have to fly her in, but here's her tape." And it was Demi Lovato. And I ran down the hallway and said, "Gary Marsh, you got to come back and watch this Demi Lovato girl." And so he came back and said, "Okay, yeah, she's great. Let's fly her in." So they flew her in. She came and auditioned and did a great job. She sang. She was bubbly. That's when she still had the gap in her teeth.
Oh, yeah.
And Disney Channel was like, "Well, we'll fix that." And we're like, "Why? She looks good to look." And she was great. And then she came and read scenes with the Jonas Brothers. Disney Channel in this audition room said, "Hey, why don't you do a song?" And she gamely sang a song and was great. And Gary Marsh turned to us and goes, "This girl deserves to be on the Disney Channel, or this girl belongs on the Disney Channel. Not on your show, of course."
No.
We're like, "Thanks a lot." So they ended up bringing her in, and then she did Sunny with a Chance, and the rest is is what it is.
The rest is history. I mean, we got a big Demi fan right here, so
Huge.
Yes,
we both are.
I
but
remember her
you're-
being great. We didn't see much of her after those auditions, but I remember her being great and really talented.
Yeah.
For sure. So you kind of touched on this earlier. So Frankie Jonas was, even in the original concept, was always going to be on the show. He wasn't added later, more or less.
Yes, he was going to go on the show. I think our bad handling of him in the original pilot made the Jonas team go, he is definitely going to be in the show in the next reiteration. And we went, yeah, of course. So, and he was fine. He was a good kid. He was fun to work with, and definitely greener than even the Jonas Brothers were. But
Yeah.
his stuff always turned out right. There's a great B story with him trying to come up with merch ideas for his dad, and he turned out right.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Got that
I
one,
like
a
that
little
story.
picture on the back.
Yeah.
I loved Frankie's character, who was, Frankie. But
Frankie Lucas.
right, Frankie Lucas. But I just thought like the snarky little brother, because I'm the youngest in my family.
Of
right?
10.
Yeah, I've got 9 older siblings. But so I always love seeing like the youngest coming in, like being like, I don't care about you guys, like this is me.
Yeah, I think once we sort of got a handle on what he could do and couldn't do, and kind of found a spin on his character, it became really easy. The very first thing he did was pop out of that drum.
Oh, jeez.
And I think it's I forgot what episode it is. Okay, maybe it's the Keeping It Real episode.
I think it's the one where they meet the Prime Minister.
Oh yeah, because we just watched that.
Yeah,
it's
Okay.
it's one of
they
the
but they end up meeting the Queen.
Right. So whatever that episode is, and that was 20 takes.
Wow.
So eventually we learned what he was good at, and he was really good at playing. He could do that really well, that like where he's waiting to sell them stuff as they come out of the shower, and building a castle out of pizza boxes, and the snarky little brother, like you said. And so once he got into that path, he was great.
Yeah, for sure. He was great. I loved him.
Earlier we were talking about the order of the shows when they were shot, and after we talked, I went onto Wikipedia, and if you look on the Jonas episodes on Wikipedia, it gives you the number of like those 101, 102, 103 numbers, and you can see what order they were really shot in. And
wow.
I could have sworn Keeping It Real was the first one, but I think the Queen, the one where they meet the Queen, might be the first one.
Oh, okay.
Wow. That's interesting.
Maybe we wrote. We may have written. No, it wouldn't have had because that's 102, and the Queen one is 101.
Wow.
And they're both directed by the same guy, which I remember.
I guess that would make sense.
Right. That is interesting though, because if the Queen one being 101, that gets right into the Joe and Stella.
Yeah, I was gonna. Yeah.
That's why I think maybe we wrote the other one first, but shot the second one first.
Maybe. Yeah.
So, that's a long time ago.
Yeah, that the Prime Minister fashion victim is what the episode is called. That's where Joe and Stella, Joella, as the fans like to say, is established. That whole storyline.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Which is
and
like
also
in
that's
the beginning.
Is that the one that has the big music video at the end? Where they're
so that's the episode where Tell Me Why.
Yeah. Where
Yep.
those little vignettes. That's the part we went back and reshot, 8 months later.
Oh, okay.
Wow, I didn't realize it was.
I didn't know it was 8
gap.
months.
Maybe it was 5. Maybe it was 5 months.
I mean, it was still months. That's a big number.
Yeah, we had. I think we had about 6 or 7 episodes, maybe more, shot by the time it premiered.
Wow.
And it's really funny because I was looking at the same list of numbers. I know we've gone off track a little bit, but
That's okay. We do it all the time.
like the episode 20 or episode 19 in the airing was episode 7, which I remember being way back in the beginning, the beauty pageant one.
Oh yeah.
I remember that being one of the first episodes, and I looked on that list, and it was one of the last to air.
Yeah, I think that was second to last.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Second or third.
Yeah.
The two last ones were Double Date and Exam Jam.
Yeah. And then
Yes.
Exam Jam ended up closing season 1.
Right.
And Exam Jam was like, that episode was a lot of flashbacks, flashing back
Yes.
to earlier in the series as a closure to the season.
Because I think we had to shoot it in 2 days.
Uh,
So if you
That's-
notice,
that's
it's just
fun.
them in a room with lots
yeah,
of
that and that episode featured a lot of songs from season 1.
Right.
It was like a montage-ish
Right.
kind of episode.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. I love the way we were, because we only had like 6 songs.
Yeah.
It worked out though.
Yeah, it worked out.
Yeah. So the show came at a time when the Jonas Brothers were global superstars. What's one story you could tell us about the Jonas Brothers that shows a more keeping it real, down to earth side?
Well, I don't know how keeping it real it is, but it's very down to earth. Is at lunchtime, they would go into the empty soundstage next to ours and have kickball tournaments
That sounds like them.
That does sound like
That
that.
sounds like them.
with the crew. It would be them and some crew members and stuff like that. And I have some video that I took of that. But I'm not sure how keeping it real is, having your own private Hollywood soundstage like kickball. But they were very very well brought up guys. Their parents were fantastic. They had brought them up very nicely, that because I think I didn't see too much parental, at least at work, I didn't see too much parental oversight, because I think they were just already good guys, so they didn't need to be looked after or anything like that. I remember when Kevin turned 21, when we were doing the show, and we went up to the dad and said, "Hey, is it okay if we get him a bottle of champagne for his 21st birthday?" And the dad said, Rev Kev said, "Yeah, I think that's probably okay. And thank you so much for asking." So
That's
they were
nice.
they were good. Yeah, they were just good. They were good guys and friendly. They're always friendly, always happy to be there. And I think that's part of their down to earthness.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. And you can see it too, just like in interviews and stuff with them. They just seemed like chill people,
Yeah.
Early on, they went into Chelsea Staub's dressing room and took all her stuff out. And she came down to the set crying, going, "What did I do? What did I do?" And there was a big laugh, and she was happy.
I mean, relieved but livid, I think, would be my reaction. That's so
great.
funny.
As a co-creator of Jonas, what was your overall role during production on set? So I know that you were there present for every episode. So we just want to know how involved you were on the set, like as like being in the co-creator, executive producer role.
We would do, Roger and I were there together on set whenever they were shooting. When we were on Phil of the Future, we handed off. Roger would do 1 week on stage, and I would be in the writer's room, and then we'd switch. But by the time we got to Jonas, there was a guy who worked with us on Phil of the Future and on Jonas, named Ivan Menchel, who was just fantastic. He was exactly on our wavelength, and he was able to sort of run the writer's room when we were on the stage. So we were both on stage at the same time. Plus, I think it was a bigger, there was a bigger light shining on Jonas, season 1 of Jonas, of the new superstars of Disney Channel, than there was on season 2 of Phil of the Future. So both of us being there at the same time, I think, helped. But while we were on set, we were there. We had to look at all the shots. We're watching on TV while they're directing, while the director is directing, and we'd be the ones to say, "Okay, moving on. Okay, that's great." Or, "Can we do this? Can we do this better? Can we do this instead?" There was always a Disney Channel guy sitting behind us going, "Okay, can Joe be more upbeat or something, or whatever?" So or with some, can we change this joke or whatever. So basically, that's what the showrunner does on the show, especially on a single camera show like that. You're basically you're looking over everything, and people are, you're approving costumes, you're approving props, you're approving the sets were done, but new sets, you're approving new sets. It's
so just overall very involved.
Overall, yeah, I'd say very involved overall. But probably the most involved part is watching everything being shot and going, okay, or not okay.
It sounds so simple put that way. So Jonas was the first show since Phil of the Future, and you kind of just barely mentioned this, but to be shot in a single camera format, what's the reason? Like why choose that instead of?
I don't know. To be honest, I don't know. And there's got to be something, because Disney's always got reasoning behind what they do. They don't put their single camera shows on DVD either. Like there are no box sets of Phil of the Future. There's like an individual DVD or something.
Yeah, there's individual DVDs of Jonas, which I think I have in that bag right there. Oh, I came prepared. I have a bunch of Jonas merch sitting out here on this table. I think it's in there. But yeah, no, you're right. They don't sell like Jonas season 1 DVD. Now, you're not going to find that anywhere.
And I don't know why. I asked them a couple of times, and they said, no, there's no reason. But I think there is. I just don't know what it is. One of the things we did at Phil of the Future, Roger and I, was they said part of the problem with season 1 was it was too dark. And they were filming that on 16 millimeter film, those episodes. And you need a lot of light for film, which the show couldn't afford. The budget was not there for all the lights. And we said, why don't you film them all digitally? Go digital, and you don't need as much light, and it'll still look like film. And so we did some tests, and they said, oh yeah, we do. We like this better. So we did that season 2 of Phil of the Future in HD. That would, but it still looks like film when you see it on TV. Yeah. And by the time we did Jonas, that was all HD. All their shows were in HD.
Trendsetter.
Yeah, I thought of that a few years ago and went, wait a minute, we were the guys who told them to do that.
Yeah, that's like so cool. I think that's cool.
So, do you have a favorite Jonas episode
that you wrote?
That you, yeah. But,
or
well, I would assume that one of your favorites would be the one of them that you wrote.
Every now and then I'll see, because we got Disney Plus to watch Let It Be, or the Get Back documentary. And Jonas is on there. And so occasionally I might put one on and watch it through, and I go, these shows are really good. I'm really proud of these.
Yeah.
So I like the later ones more than the earlier ones, because I see the everybody's so new at it. So I like the one. Yeah. I like
the later filmed or the later aired.
The later filmed.
Okay, that's what I figured.
So, I like the one where they had the party when mom and dad were on vacation. That was great.
Oh yeah, Home Alone.
I love the Halloween episode.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
I love how that turned out. There's a bunch that run together, because I think that, like the one where they had the interview with Robert Kohler.
Oh yeah.
Stella and Macy are downstairs. That one, the one where they do karaoke upstairs, and they all sort of run together to me, and it did to the guys too, because there was we actually put it in the script, because we had an episode where they forgot Stella's birthday. Then we had an episode where they forgot the day they met Stella. And then they had another episode where they did something else. And I think Kevin said, boy, we sure do forget a lot of things. And we put that in the script.
Are they like that in real life, though?
Not in a million years. They would never forget Stella's birthday.
Because that's actually one of the things that I was wondering next that I was going to ask is, like, did you kind of take their personalities and tailor that to their characters? Because you see a lot of, like, Nick being, like, very Virgo-esque OCD, because I relate a lot to Nick because we're both Virgos, you know, and then you see Kevin being like the goofball and Joe being the comedic, you know.
I
Which
got
is
that.
interesting because I think in real life Joe's the goofball, right?
Well, yeah, but
That's what we saw. I think eventually we kind of saw them playing those roles, and they were really, we'd give them something and they'd be really good at it. So you kind of, once they're good at something, you want to do that again. So Kevin sort of became the goofball, and Joe became, early on, we would have a joke like of Joe going, not these exact words, but the point of the joke was, I'm so cool and hot. And Disney Channel would go, don't, that's not what we want. We want these guys to be aspirational. We want the kids to relate to them, but they're really good at those jokes. And so eventually Disney Channel saw that was actually a funny joke, and so we could do that more. And you know, where Joe's like, no, you know, where he says, I'm not too sure how my hair turned out this morning. And,
he's very
and then he
concerned about
says,
his
no,
hair.
I'm just kidding, my hair's perfect. Stuff like that. And he played that stuff really good. And Kevin played the sort of goofball guy pretty good.
Yeah.
Really good. And Nick was very stoic and serious, but sometimes he could be funny. And I'd say they're, you know, more than 50% like they are in real life.
Okay. Did you guys just stick to the scripts, or was there ever any improv?
There was sometimes there was an improv, but mostly we stuck to the scripts. We tried a few moments where they wanted to sort of just improv some stuff, like some ends of scenes. We said, great, let's try a few, and we did. And they kind of, you know, the schedule is so tight, and you don't have time to really improv again and again and again when you got to move on, because they got to go to school, or Nick has to be out at 3:30 or whatever. So we did it a few times, and it just kind of didn't really spark anything remarkable. So we kind of mainly stuck to the script. But if they had lines, if they had some stuff they wanted to put in, they definitely put in. Like the joke where I think Nick gives Kevin or Joe a mint and says, here, you need this, seriously. That was something where Nick says, hey, do you think, can I say that to Kevin or Joe, whoever it was? And we said, yeah, sure. So we put that in. So giving them little lines like that, and they liked doing that.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, and that makes sense. You don't want to improv when it's like, all right. Especially because they were probably so busy.
Oh my gosh, I would imagine that like they had the craziest schedule at that time.
They did. That was the most remarkable part, was they would work on the show, and then they would go do shows on the weekend, and then come back on Monday morning. It was their schedule must have been crazy.
I don't doubt it.
Yeah. There was one point where Nick was supposed to be taking this test to get his high school GED, which means he wouldn't have to go to school anymore, which was like 3 hours out of the day. And I remember one of their managers came up to me and said, hey, so Monday morning, Nick's taking the GED. It's going to be great. Going to have a lot of spare time. And we said, good. Is he studying for it? And he said, I think so. I think he is. And we said, because, you know, they just went to Las Vegas to do a show, and then he's going to drive home like 4 a.m. Sunday night to get here to be at work on Monday morning before he takes his test. And the manager was like, he is? So
I would imagine that they did not get a lot of sleep.
No,
and not much studying.
Yeah, not much studying.
Did he get his GED?
Yeah, did he pass?
Did he pass? To be honest, I don't know, but I don't think so.
Oh, no.
Oh my gosh!
Oh man, that's
I don't remember going, yay. I remember going, yeah, what do you expect?
Oh yeah, that'll do it.
So when you think back to those times of the kickball and the GED and the filming and all that stuff, what would you say is like the most memorable or sticks out to you, just at your time in general, even at Phil of the Future, just your time at Disney Channel?
Yeah, I would say seeing the results of the stuff, being on set and watching everything being shot was always great. The process of putting it all together was very stressful. And because Disney channels vary what they are. And so that sort of getting it all organized and putting it together had some stress in it, but I liked shooting them. I liked being there when they were being edited and seeing the final result. That was great. I liked that. And being able to, these were the shows, Phil of the Future, not all the way, but Jonas especially, this was a show that I made with Roger Schulman. And it wasn't somebody else's show that I was working on, that as great as it was and with all the same kind of work. But this was something that I did, and it was fun to watch.
Oh yeah, it's different when it's your show.
Oh, for sure. I mean, we don't know from experience.
Or we don't know from experience.
But I imagine.
Yeah.
So I guess, like, you ever sit there, does it ever just hit you like, wow, like, I was a part of, like, because we still sit there and watch Jonas and enjoy it and laugh at it. And, like, it's a huge part of our childhood and so many other people. Like, does it ever hit you like, man, like, I was a part of that. Like, I did that.
I created
this.
Right. Co-created this.
That's what around right before Christmas, my son was here, and he's now 29, but back then he would have been in his teens. And we watched a couple of episodes, and he was like, wow, I really wish I'd been more interested in this show. Because I could have gone to the set. He came to the set a couple times. I think he fell asleep on the couch in the writer's room.
Oh my gosh.
But he said, he goes, boy, I wish I'd been more interested, because I would have really enjoyed it. My sons came to Phil of the Future a couple times. They were really little then. And I remember there was some prop, like it was like a dinosaur prop or something. And in the scene, I went to the back of the scene in the wall. There was like some ivy hanging over the wall. And I put the dinosaur behind the ivy. And you couldn't see it. But I said to my son, when you see this on TV, only you will know that there's a dinosaur behind that ivy.
That's so cute. That's adorable.
And there's a scene in the exam jam, I think, where Joe says, I'm going to jump over this box. And it's like here, the camera's down here, and he comes and jumps over the box. So it's towards the camera. And I'm inside the box. I know that. So he's jumping over me.
Oh my gosh.
That would be nerve-wracking for me. I really don't know.
That was fun.
It is fun. So how would you describe your time on Jonas in one word?
Stressful.
Fair.
Yeah.
That's fair.
Stressful, but rewarding. I need 3 words.
That's fair.
Stressful / rewarding, 2 words.
Stress warding.
Stress warding.
Stress warding. I love it. I make up words all the time. That's great.
So, do you have any advice for someone who wants to get into writing and production of these kinds of shows like Jonas?
I would say, if you want to be a writer, keep writing. Just write. Just do it. And then if you wanted to get on a show, just get on the show any way you can. Any door that opens, take it. Mm-hmm. And any foot you get in the door, try and kick it open wider. It is difficult to get a job as a writer just out of the blue. I think of all the people I know who became writers after me, they were all working on shows already as mostly as writer's assistants. Those are the people in the room who are typing everything up and formatting everything, and just basically like super talented stenographers. But if you're a writer, write. And if you want to be on a TV show, get on the TV show. I know that sounds facetious, but if it's the person who makes the coffee in the morning, then be that person. Because then you can be there and go, oh, I like that job. I like that job. And get in there. Or if you're on the set, working on the set, and the executive producer says, what do you really want to do? Do you really want to be putting chalk marks on the ground where people stand? If you're a cameraman, then yes, you do, because that's a great job. But do you want to be going to get coffee? And you'd say, no, I want to be in the writer's room with you guys. And maybe they'll go, oh, well, let's see what happens. Let's see what, that person just quit or that person just got another job somewhere. Maybe you can come in. Back in the go-go 90s, there used to also, a lot of shows used to also have a writer's PA. And that was also a great job because then you could get a job as a writer's assistant. But staffs are so small now that one writer's assistant is usually all they have and no PAs. But it's still doable. I mean, so many people, like 5 years ago, I would have said, do your own show and put it on YouTube. And because people have the quality, the equipment now is so easy to make quality shows, easy equipment to make quality shows, like on your iPhone almost. And like you guys have you got your lighting package, and regardless of where it comes from, you have a lighting package, and you can. A friend of mine, a few years ago, she's an actress, and she and her improv friends did a sitcom on it's a single camera sitcom, and it's on YouTube, and you couldn't tell the difference between any of the shows on now that are on like Netflix or Amazon or anything like that, which are done, I'm sure, very, very small packages of equipment. But just keep doing it. Just keep doing it is what is my only advice.
Yeah. Well, I mean, just with us, we're going to keep doing it. We're going to keep writing and developing our show.
Well, my trajectory, I know we're at the end, but my trajectory was I was in San Diego. I was doing a cable access TV show, and word came out that a movie company was coming to San Diego to shoot a movie. I went in to interview for the job of lighting technician, which I had no idea what that was or what it involved. And they knew that in 2 seconds in the interview. And they said, well, if you want to come work in the office for free, we can probably find something for you. And I said, sure. So I took it. At the end of that day, I was working as the assistant prop person for $100 a week. And from that movie, I moved up to LA and just found 6 movies that were starting up and just went every day to the production office, and finally got a job as a PA for the assistant directors. From that, I got a job as an assistant director, work my way up that, there's those levels of assistant directors. I was working on a movie where I met a guy who was also wanted to be a writer. We teamed up and wrote something together. My girlfriend at the time, who's now my wife, had a friend who was an executive, and she read that stuff and said, oh, this is really great. You guys should be TV writers. So then he had a job on a show called Dream On, which is on HBO. They read our spec script and they said, if you want to, next season, if you guys want to write an outside script, you're welcome to. And then we were in. And then those people went on to create Friends.
Wow.
That's awesome.
So
That's a crazy awesome story.
It's a trail, but you can see the steps in it.
Yeah.
Like, because I remember when I first started off working as an AD, as assistant director, you have to work so many days before you can get to the Directors Guild union. And you have to put all your paperwork together and proof that you worked on these days, and 400 days. And at the beginning, I was like, I'm not going to be an assistant director. I'm going to be a writer. So I didn't keep any of that stuff. And then as 2 years later, I'm like 340 days, 370 days. I'm going, and I had to sort of scramble. And the same week, I sent in my book of proof to the Directors Guild and got in as a second AD. The same week, we sold the scripts at Dream On. So the path went way different. So but it's also incredible, a lot of luck.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's just sometimes people just have their lucky breaks.
That's what it is.
That's how a lot of the industry is.
Lucky breaks.
And just knowing the right people.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think it's all about connections too.
Yeah.
It is 100% about connections. So that's how it goes. But like I said before, if you see a way in, take it. You can change it later. But once you're in, you're in.
All right. Well, thank
All
you
right,
so
cool.
much. Have a great day.
You guys too. It was nice talking to you.
It's so good
Hey,
talking to
good
you.
talking to you too.
Bye.
Bye.